guys have all seen them, that entitles you to make purchases and pay for them later up to your line of credit. And your line of credit is the amount of money total that you are allowed to spend. Okay? In general, we have high interest rates. Okay? So for example, you wouldn't want to buy a car with a credit card. You'd be paying way too much interest. You're going to get a better interest rate going through a bank. Okay? High interest rates and can potentially build your credit, and it can destroy your credit, depending on how responsible you are with your credit card. One thing that they have done, and they've done studies on this, and this is true, they have increased impulse buying credit cards. And impulse buying is when you just, like, I'm going to the store because I need milk and bread. I'm going to the store because I need milk and bread. And, ooh, cookies. Right? So that's impulse buying. Yeah, exactly. And same thing at, like, you go to Target or wherever, like, I need new socks. I'm getting socks. That's all I'm getting is socks. I'm getting socks. And, ooh, look at the clearance rack and all the pretty stuff up front on the end caps right next to the registers. And I need this and I need this. Sorry. So that all has increased with credit cards. And the reason that has increased with credit cards is it's not money, like real money, so you don't think about it. Like if you have to take money and you have to subtract the balance from your bank account, or if you have cash in your pocket and you have to actually spend it, it's more concrete for you, and so you're less likely to waste it. So just be careful is all. So the benefits of credit card. You don't have to carry cash. If you carry cash and somebody steals your wallet, you're out of luck. There's nothing you can do. You call the police and you can tell them everything, but there's no guarantee there's not going to get your cash back. Whereas if you have a credit card and somebody steals your wallet, then you're not out any money because you call the credit card company and you report it, and then it's done. So that's nice. You don't have to carry cash. If used properly, credit cards can increase your FICO score. So that's really good. You can maintain a record of all purchases. You go on your online credit card account, you can look up a history of all your purchases. So if you need to know, when did I buy this? Or if something has like a warranty, you can have proof of when you purchased it for the warranty if you don't have the original receipt, so that's kind of nice. There are potential reward programs like flyer miles, cash back. No, not really. The problem with the free gas. Free gas is another reward program that happens. The thing with the reward programs, though, to qualify for the reward programs, you have to have good credit already.
Oh, okay.
So you can't be building your credit yet to get into a reward program. But once you have built your credit and you have good credit, then you can get into these reward programs. Also, credit cards do give you the ability to finance important purchases that you don't have the upfront cash for. They're good for emergency situations. Your car breaks down and you don't have the cash to fix it, but you need to get to work. You can, pay for it on the credit card and make payments on it. So it's good for things like that. Again, though, you don't want to go crazy. Drawbacks. You can end up paying a lot more than the value of the item because of the interest charges and how long you carry the balance out. A $20 item could end up costing $50, $60, $70, $100 once you've paid all the interest over however many months. It can lower your FICO score if you make late payments, if you don't make your payments, if your balances are too high. It'll all lower your credit card score, your credit score.
Is it really bad if like you just like one month of
company, if you call them, always call them. If you call them and tell them that you can't make the payment that month, they're less likely to report it. Some of them report at 30 days if you're late. Some of them report at 60 days. Some of them wait till 90 days.
Because I missed one of them, but like, I mean, it was like a very last minute thing where I didn't really know I was going to be able to.
Okay.
And then I never called her to get that. I just
In the
paid, like,
future, they'll
double
call, because sometimes too, they'll say, well, if you can't make the payment, can you make like a $5 payment? And then you make the $5 payment, it won't get reported to the credit card company because you paid something. And they'll usually work with you as long as you're communicating with them along the way. It's when you don't communicate with them that they become less likely to be flexible. So it depends on the company because they can report at 30, 60, or 90 days. So it just depends on them. Now the bad thing, okay, your late charge is typically equivalent to the minimum monthly payment or higher. So if you miss a payment or if you're late on a payment, let's say you're late on a payment and your payment is $25 and then you have a $25 late charge, you pay your $25 but you paid it late and so there's a $25 late charge, so it's like you didn't pay anything at all. So you want to be really careful with that as well. Just be aware. You don't ever want to be late on a credit card payment. The late payments, the late charges are just way too high. But again, if you talk to them, sometimes they can work things out with you. Like for example, a lot of the companies now, because they understand like people get paid on like a certain schedule, they will allow you to change your due date in the month. So for my credit card, the due date was like the 28th, but I get paid on the 1st. So I had them push it back to the 7th. So they moved it for me. So now I get paid before it's due. And that gives me enough time that I get paid and I can pay the bill and it'll get there and process in time. So a lot of times they'll work with you in that way too. So that's kind of nice. The most common kind of credit card is a revolving charge account. The most common kind. Okay, you don't have to pay the bill in full every month. Okay, you do have a minimum monthly payment is required. If you pay the minimum monthly payment at only, it will take years to pay off your credit card balance. If you have, let's say you have a $300 credit card balance and a $25 minimum payment, it will probably take about 4 or 5 years to pay that off completely. So think about how much you're paying if you're paying $25 a month for like, let's say 4 years. It's a lot more than the $300 you owe. So just remember the minimum monthly payments don't really get you very far. There's a finance charge on a balance carried over. And you can stretch your payments out. But the interest will be very high. On average, it's over 20%. Okay. Examples of revolving accounts: Visa, MasterCard, Discover, store cards, a gasoline card, gas card.
Where do you get that card?
At the gas station. You have to actually apply at the actual gas station.
Who?
Charge card is different than a credit card.
LeBron kicked my
charge card you can make purchases only at the stores that accept the card, and you have to pay the balance off every month. But you don't get charged interest. And the way they work is the charge card charges the store a percentage of your sales. Well, all credit cards charge the store a percentage of your sales too. The charge card charges them instead of you. An example of like the most famous charge card is American Express. And you'll notice that a lot of stores don't take American Express, and that's because they don't want to pay them. But you do have to pay the bill in full every month. And so, like, some American Express accounts have no limit. For people with really good credit, they have no limit. They could go out and charge like $300,000. But they have to be able to pay it off at the end of the month.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it is. Okay, the Truth in Lending Act. This is the Truth in Lending Act covers several different various aspects of credit and loans and things like that. But for your credit card, it protects you if your card is lost or stolen. You have to notify the credit card company immediately.
Yep.
Okay? If before you notify, let's say I lose my card, somebody finds it, they go out and buy something with it, and then I call, I can be charged $50. I have a maximum liability of $50. So if somebody charges before I report it, I owe up to $50. If I call and cancel, I tell them, and then somebody charges after that, then I don't owe anything.
Wait. But what if you lose your card, you didn't really know until like maybe the end of the day?
You would, and somebody used it, you would be responsible for $50 of what they charged.
That is such BS.
But again, if you call first, you're not responsible for any of it.
But
Yeah.
because
I
you
thought it
didn't
was-
sign with your signature and they check the camera to see who
It's
used
still
it.
you're still responsible for up to
But you
$50.
would go after that
I
person.
thought they asked you questions and that's how they know whether like what purchases were yours. Did they ask you what your last purchases
Should be
were?
able to see.
Okay, this is on a credit card, not a debit card, and credit card are different. This is on a credit card, and they're allowed to charge you $50. That doesn't mean they will. That means they're allowed to. So you could be liable for up to $50 if somebody charges before you report.
But shouldn't the store have to refund that because they didn't check the ID of the person? Because
They're not
supposed to
they're
look
not
at
required to check the ID.
Well, how comes they ask when I use a credit card?
They a lot of them do, but they're not required to. It's not a law that they have to check your ID.
So they keep it maybe I was like, no way.
Yeah, but if they're asking for your ID, then they can refuse to let you use the card. Okay, Fair Credit Billing Act. This law, guys, this law protects you from errors on your monthly statement. So if there's an error on your monthly statement, like a calculation error or something, they have to fix it by this law. You're not responsible for their errors. They are responsible for their errors. Okay, your debit card can be used like a checking, a credit card, but it's not a credit card. The money comes directly out of your bank account. You guys are all familiar with the debit card, right?
Yep.
Debit cards are good. Okay, now it's the Electronic Funds Transfer Act that protects your debit card. Okay, so Truth in Lending Act protects your credit card. Electronic Funds Transfer Act protects your debit card. And the differences between a debit card and a credit card is if you report the card or if there's any unauthorized transactions on your debit card, you do not have to pay any of that. What will happen is the bank will run an investigation and refund you your money. No, it's not credit card at all. It's completely different. It's electronic funds transfer. So that's why credit cards you could still owe money. Debit cards you will not owe money.
Really? Even if you go over the
No, I'm talking about if somebody else uses your card, like steals your card or you unauthorized use. Yeah, that's different. Okay, and then there's the Fair Debt Collection Act. Now the Fair Debt Collection Act protects you from being harassed. Okay, so if you owe somebody money, They're allowed to come after you. They're allowed to collect the debt, but they're not allowed to harass you, and they're not allowed to use unfair means. What this means is, if they call you at work, you are allowed to tell them, you are not allowed to call me at work. I am at work. You are affecting my employment. They cannot call you at work again. They can call you at home, but they're not allowed to call you at work if you tell them not to call you at work. They're only allowed to call you at home between certain hours. I believe it's 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. They're not allowed to call you at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to collect a debt. That's not allowed. They're not allowed to call you 75 times a day. Okay, that's harassment. They're not allowed to harass you. They're also not allowed to use unfair means. They cannot call up your boss and tell your boss that you owe them money. They can't show up at your work. You know what I mean? They can't do things that would be damaging to your financial, emotional well-being. Okay, they can call your family to try to find you, like if you put them down as a reference, they can call your dad or your mom or something and say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of this person, where are they? But they can't say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of this person, they owe us $652 and they're refusing to pay, and it's been months. They're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to defame your character. Yeah, no, they're not allowed. Okay, and this is the law that protects you from that kind of behavior. And you've gone into collections.
They can't go gangster on their people. Like my brother, right?
Frank lost his credit card, and he notified the creditor before the card was used, but later that day somebody found the card and charged $700. How much does he have to pay it back?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's right.
Yes.
Because he reported before use. If he had reported after they charged, how much would he have had that paid potentially? $50.
Oh.
It's a $50 maximum. That's the most that they can ever charge you.
Include what that person spent?
No, I'm saying out of the $700 that this person spent, if they spent the $700 before Frank reported it, he'd have to pay up to $50 of it. The maximum he'd have to pay would be $50.
Okay. So it
that
doesn't
would be
matter
the-
how much they spent.
Yeah, if they spent $20,000 on his credit card,
He just has
he'd have to pay $50. Okay.
That sounds okay.
No, it's not. It's not terrible.
No. I thought it was.
I mean, it still stinks because you're like, why do I have to pay this $50? I didn't even get the hockey equipment.
Yeah,
But
when
it's
you're
not.
looking at a bigger amount.
Yeah, the
like,
$50
alright,
is not so
$50,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay, credit card companies issue a monthly statement, so they convert APR into a monthly percentage rate, which we're going to call MPR. Okay, your MPR, your monthly percentage rate, is equal to your APR divided by 12. Okay, so we're going to have 21.6, and we're going to divide that by 12. So our monthly percentage rate is going to be 1.8%.
I know you did that.
Right here. Okay. Now, what does that 1.8% get charged on? There has to be a fair way to calculate a credit card bill, because if they pick an arbitrary day, what if it's the last day of the month or the last day of the billing cycle? That's the day they've used the calculation. But let's say you didn't charge anything all month, but the very last day of the billing cycle, your card broke down and you had to pay like $600. Do you think it would be fair to pay interest on $600 when for 29 days you didn't owe anything? No. So they use what's called an average daily balance. And this is, it averages the amounts you owed. Okay, so this is the way that they determined it was fair. So you get an average daily balance, It averages the amount you owed each day of the billing cycle, and this is used to calculate your interest. Speaking of interest, what did I write that? Balance. Okay, so during her billing cycle, 7 days she owed $456.11, and then she bought something, and then for 3 days she owed $1177.60. Then she made a payment. So for 6 days she owed $990.08. Then she bought something, and so for 9 days she owed $221.15, and then she bought something else, and so for 5 days she owed $2209.13. This is how many days she had each of these balances. Okay, so first step, we need to find the total number of days. Okay, so I'm going to add up 7 plus 3 plus 6 plus 9 plus 5. And so her billing cycle is 30 days long.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, that's the first thing we need to find out is how long, because we need to know how many days to know how to find the average. Okay, then we take the number of days times each balance, find the sum, and then we need to divide by 30. Okay, and so here's what that looks like. 7 days she owed $456.11. So I do 7 times 456.11. 3 days she owed $1177.60. 6 days she owed $990.08. 9 days she owed $2115.15. And then 5 days, bless you, she owed $2209.13. Okay, so if I multiply these, why? So that's each individual multiplication. And when I total that up, it equals $43,248.05. Well, obviously she's not paying interest on that. She never owed $43,000. The maximum she owed was $2,000. So now to find the average, I take this number and I divide it by the total number of days, which was 30. And her average daily balance is $1441.60. And this was determined to be fair because it's less than the maximum she owed, and it's more than the minimum she owed. It's the average somewhere in there. So this is the amount of money that she will pay interest on, not the $2209 she owed at the end, because that would be unfair to her, and not the $456.11 that she owed at the beginning, because that would be unfair to the credit card company because they loaned her all this money.
It's only now that number of days times each balance, when the sum and divide by 30. You only divide it by 30 because of that.
Because it's 30 days, yeah.
Okay.
That's where that 30 comes from.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, the billing cycle on a credit card will either be a calendar month or a set number of days, and it will usually be 28, 30, or 31 if it's a set number of days, because they keep it sort of similar to a calendar. And then, of course, if it's an actual average daily balance, which was 1441.60. Is her average daily balance. Okay. Her APR is 18%. Okay. We need to find her monthly percent rate for MPR, which is going to be 18 divided by 12, which is 1.5%. And then we need to turn that into a decimal, 0.015. And then we take, to find the finance charge, that's our average daily balance times our monthly percentage rate. Okay, so 1441.60 times